Okay, folks, we're going to get started with the analysis of part 10 real quick. Sorry it's been so long. Work and life have interrupted, but we're going to try to get back on the ball. We're going to do this real quickly. This is, we're going to start with the shift of control. Remember, we left off with Marx and how he thought that his analysis of Des Capital was going to affect the way industrialism worked. And what he didn't anticipate was how the effect of non-human power, which is fuel and water and the steam engine and whatnot, would affect capitalism or affect the way workers work, and it kind of maybe even temporarily put what he thought would happen to the side. Now, the social development says that energy production was derived more and more from inanimate sources of power and less from human labor. As a result, mass production required less labor, but mass production required mass consumption, so that the products of the new technology had to be distributed to the working groups as well as to others, so that rising standards of living for the masses made the proletariat fewer and fewer and richer. Henry Ford recognized that the only way he was going to really make money is to give his workers enough of a salary so they could afford the products, or so that the community could afford more of the products. And he said the leveling up of the poor and leveling down of the rich originated in economic forces, but was speeded up and extended by government policies in regard to taxation and social welfare, especially after 1945. Remember, that was done after World War II, and that was done adopted through socialism after World War I, especially after World War II, where socialist planks were adopted, and what we call the nanny state that we have now has been the standard around the world for the last 60, 70 years. And we're going to skip over that, the religious and intellectual stages of culture, and he's going to deal with that later. And we're going to get into the economic portion, because this is something that we don't really understand, and it's necessary. It's necessary not only for our understanding of what Western culture is and what the economic system is, but also for later in the book. And said Western culture is the richest, most powerful social organization ever made by man. And he said the one reason for this success has been its economic organization. And here he's explaining that each stage was assumed by the next stage. In other words, it basically became obsolete, or what he says, committed suicide. So one stage basically became obsolete and became fodder or material for the next stage. So the manorial system gave rise to the commercial capitalism, or where you have the cartels would trade goods and services and ship it someplace else, and then bring back money and other products from another place as far as trade is concerned. And that's how they made their profits, and that's where capitalism actually started. And said the manorial system, this gave rise to to a trade, the excesses of the manorial system, because the excesses of food and in products, because the excess labor was freed up, was traded elsewhere. And it's and so now the land barons had money where they could afford luxuries and spices and other things that were foreign. So somebody had to go out and get them. So this set up the capitalist system, where the cartels actually finance ships to go out and actually, bring things back from a foreign land to where they were more valuable. We're going to get into this a little later. So once, we went through the stages of capitalism. So one stage of capitalism gave rise to the next. And each stage was able to finance itself from the profits of the previous stage. Here's a key point. It said, as a result of the industrial system soon found that it was again able to finance its own expansion from its own profits, and with this achievement, financial controls were weakened, and the stage of monopoly capitalism arrived. And it says, in the fifth stage, the great industrial units working together, either directly or through cartels, trade associations, were able to exploit the majority of the people. The result was a great economic crisis which soon developed into a struggle for the control of the state. The minority hoping to use political power to defend their privileged position, the majority hoping to use the state to curtail the power and privileges of the minority. Both hoped to use the power of the state to find some solution to the economic aspects of the crisis. This dualist struggle dwindled down with the rise of economic and social pluralism after 1945. In other words, it got to this great struggle, which basically started after the Depression, where the majority wanted equality. They wanted not to be oppressed by the monopolists or the robber barons, and the minority wanted to hold their position, and they wanted to be, their position to be defended by the state, but they had to come to some sort of compromise, and the compromise was the socialist planks that, say, FDR put in or England put in, where they had to take profits or take money from the robber barons and basically fund the programs for the poor or for the majority of the people, so that you can get a stable system, which has basically remained stable for the last 80 years. But again, this, you can see that is always in flux, and you can see that this is the crisis that we're living through now. You have, these billionaires all around the world, and you got that have most of the wealth, and you have the majority of people in poverty. So now, how do you equalize that? How do you come to a balance again? That's just something that they're going to have to figure out. Here's a key of something that everybody probably needs to know, or, the definition of what capitalism is. Okay, it's that the primary goal of capitalism. Capitalism provides a very powerful motivation for economic activity because it associates economic motivation so closely with self-interest. See Ayn Rand. If you read Ayn Rand, you would know what I'm talking about. But this same feature, which is a source of strength in providing economic motivation through the pursuit of profits, which is capital. All capitalism is an economic system that is in pursuit of profits, is a source of weakness owing to the fact that it is so self-centered. A motivation contributes very readily to a loss of economic coordination. It says, we could indicate this by pointing out that capitalism, because it seeks profits as its primary goal, is never primarily seeking to achieve prosperity, high production, high consumption, political power, or patriotic improvement or moral uplift. It said any of these can be achieved under capitalism, or any of all may be sacrificed and lost under capitalism, depending on this relationship to the primary goal of capitalist activity, the pursuit of profits. During the 900 years of capitalism, it has at various times contributed to both the achievement and the destruction of the social goals. You got to remember, capitalism is a tool. It is not really an ideology. Capitalism is a tool for an engine for growth, and if the tool runs wild, it can, if the tool is used properly, it can build. But if it's used improperly, just like dynamite or explosive, it can blast holes through material that you can build, or it can bring down a skyscraper. It doesn't matter. It depends on how the tool is wielded. And if you don't control it, it will destroy you. And this is what we're going through right now. As of 2013, with this economic crisis, they let capitalism run wild, and it darn near brought down the whole system. Okay, this is an addendum to Tragedy and Hope, Part 10. And we're going to start with some definitions, hopefully to bring clarity to the text. Because in Tragedy and Hope quickly talks about capitalism and what capitalism is. And in the last section, we went through the different aspects, or the different stages of capitalism. So we're going to go a little bit more deeply into depth about this. Okay, the first definition is commercial capitalism. And seeking profits by moving goods from a place where they are less valuable to a place where they are more valuable. And then this is what we call merchant trade, where they took the excesses from one area, say in the manorial system, the feudal system, and they took the excess food, excess spices, excess production from trade, say like weapons, or say like even wheels or whatever, and they shipped them to a place where they're more valuable. And then on the return, they use that to buy things from other areas, and then ship them back to where they came from. And that's they made after they counted up their transportation costs and the cost of the goods, they made a profit, and a very good profit, from taking goods from one place to another, from a low price area to a high price area. And we're going to see that when we talk about goods and money. So mercantilism is a form of commercial capitalism that grew out of commercial capitalism, where profits are not gained from the movement of goods, but the restriction of movements of goods, thereby controlling the price. We're going to see that later, when to keep their profits high, the commercial capitalist or the trader found out that if they didn't control it, they could they would slowly start to lose their advantage, lose their profits, or lose their margins. So they try to figure out how to control this process so they could keep making money. Okay, here's a great definition, about money and goods, money and wealth. Okay, goods or wealth that you have, which is an asset. Okay, it's something physical, whether it's labor, whether it's land, whether it's an asset, a house, whether it's something that's produced. It is wealth that you have. It's something solid that you can put your hand on, that you could use. That's what goods are. And said money is a claim on it. It's a mechanism for trade. It's a mechanism for transferring wealth from one person to another and vice versa. It's a claim on wealth. It's a debt. So prices, this is the value of goods expressed in money. In other words, money, like the text says, money and goods are opposite things. One is used to express the value of the other. So how do you equate the value of the goods? You have to have an index. You have to have a measure, and money is a measure of what those goods are worth on a market. It said value, the worth of money expressed in goods. If you have a $20 bill or a $10 bill, you express that bill or that money in what you can actually claim with it, I remember when I was a child, we used to call what they call a penny candy. Okay, 1 penny will get you 1 piece of candy. So you equated a penny, which is money, with the value of what you could actually purchase for it. You know, if you have a dime, you get a better piece of candy, a bigger piece of candy. And that's how we equate what the value, the worth of money was. It's expressed in what you can actually claim with that money. Okay, we're going to go in. This is commercial capitalism. Okay, as it was stated in the definitions, commercial capitalism is taking goods from a high-priced area, money from a high-priced area to a low-priced area where the money was worth more. That's just naturally. Money flows from a high-priced area to a low-price area. That's the natural flow because the money can actually claim more in a quote-unquote low-price area where money is short or money is worth more. And since we know that money and goods move in opposite directions, what would you say that goods do? You're exactly right. Goods flow from a low-price area where the value of the goods is less in money to a high-price area where there's more value. You can get more value. You can get more money for that good. And commercial capitalists make money on this movement. They make profits on this. You know, basically what they do, they buy low and they sell high. You know, that is the stock market. That is the essence of capitalism. Buying low and selling high and making a profit. So this went on for quite a long time of making a good profit. But the thing is that these two things eventually will balance out. And that's the whole thing about economy. Okay. When you have, when you have, as the supply of goods build up, whether it's spices or whether it's, and nowadays tennis shoes, basketball shoes, whether it's clothing, as the supply builds up, it tends to drive the price down. So where these two areas actually start to meet, where, the more money that flows into a low price area, then it has a tendency to be able to claim less good, be less effective. So these two things eventually will balance each other out. So as good old capitalists, what do they do? What would you do? Okay, you want to maintain what? Profit, because capitalism is a system that seeks profits. So what do they do? How do you keep your profits high? You invent what you call a system of mercantilism, where the normal flow of money going from a high price area to a low price area, and goods going from a low price area to a high price area, unrestricted to where they balance out. The mercantilist sits in the middle, and they control the flow of money and they control the flow of goods. How do they do that? They restrict the supply coming from a low price area to a high price area. We know them as monopolists. They control the supply. And eventually what they learn to do as bankers and as bankers and other kind of cartels, they suppress the supply of money going from the high price areas to the low price areas, keeping wages low, keeping money restricted, and they were able to not only maintain but increase their profits. You see a lot of that today. You see that with Nike. They're mercantilists. You see that with Japan. You see that with a lot of economic mercantilists, shipping or offshoring their production to low price areas where they can take advantage of the wages, and then coming back and restricting trade, but selling that supply in a high priced area. And they're able to do that by controlling both sides. They control not only the money going into the low price area in the form of wages, but also the supply coming back into the high price area. So that is what a mercantilist is. And that's where the banking cartels came from. From this excess, from the mercantilists, this excess controlling the supply of goods, and then the banking system comes in and controlling the supply of money. So you have two different cartels or mercantilists coming together to form the trade that we have now.